Hello dear listeners. In this video, I want to talk about a human's eye, which denies evolutionary theory as its structure and as its function. Before I will talk about structure and function of a human's eye shortly and simply. After, I will tell you why a human's eye denies evolutionary theory entirely. I want to talk about the structure of a human's eye before. There is sclera at the outmost of the eye, as it is seen in the figure. The piece of the sclera which is in front of lens is called as cornea. Cornea is transparent. There is choroid just inside of sclera, and there is retina which consists of photosensitive nerve cells just inside of choroid. Choroid supplies the cells of retina. There is lens at the in front of the eye, and there is pupil just before it. It surrounds pupil. There is vitreous cavity behind lens, and vitreous cavity involves 90% of volume of eye. Vitreous cavity is full of vitreous gel, which consists of 98% of water and 2% of collagens and a kind of acid. There is macula on behind part of the eye on which 90% of image occurs. Macula is on retina. This image, which occurs on retina, is transmitted by optic nerves to the brain. After I talked about the structure of an eye, I want to talk about how an image occurs in an eye. When an eye looks to a direction, to the light direction, the light passes through cornea before. Cornea refracts the light 43 degrees. Then the light comes to lens as passing through the pupil. I want to direct your attention to some point here. When the light is much, iris enlarges and pupil contracts, and less light passes through inside. Contrary, when the light is low, iris contracts and pupil enlarge and much light passes through inside. So light regulation is made. Somehow the cells which constitute the eye are such transformed that a light regulation can be made by iris. Let's talk about lens a little. The structure of lens can be changed by filaments which are attached its top and bottom points. It flattens or swells according to the distance of the object which we look at. This is called zoom regulation. The cells which produce the eye are so intelligent cells that an eye can make a zoom regulation, besides with optimal control perfectly. As if the cells could have felt that this regulation is necessary very much and make this controlling with optimal control. After the light passes through lens, it passes through vitreous gel, which fills vitreous cavity. After, as I said, this gel consists of 98 water and 98% water and 2% collagens and a kind of acid. If percentage of collagens and acids totally was 4%, seeing would have been impossible. For example, when we are old, These acid and collagens combine, and then the homogeneous structure of vitreous gel spoils. Anyway, let's return our subject. The light which passes through lens as passes through vitreous gel lights from macula, which is at the retina. 90% of the image occurs at macula, and then the light is transmitted to the brain by optic nerves by electrochemical transformations. There are rod cells and cones at macula. Rod cells ensure that we can see at little light. As for cones ensures us to see colorful. Now, after I have talked about the structure of a human eye and about that, how an image occurs inside the eye, I want to talk about why any human's eye denies evolutionary theory entirely. There are two probabilities. The first probability, if we think like the evolutionists, the first eye, which is occurred at our ancestors, was occurred perfectly in current form. The second probability that is that there are some faults and defects of structure of the first human's eye, and these are getting better by mutation as passing down, and eye converts to current form. If we think about the first probability, the probability that I was occurred perfectly in current form. 1. The cells which have constituted a human eye as transforming are what an intelligent cell. What intelligent cells that they thought that iris must be produced for light regulation. 2. The cells which have constituted a human eye as transforming are what intelligent cells. The shape of lens can be changed according to distance of the point which the eye is looking at. In other words, lens can make zoom regulation. 3. The cells which have constituted a human eye as transforming are what intelligent cells that the amounts of collagens and the acid are determined are determined with very high precision. For example, if the amount of collagens and acid is 4% totally, human's eye cannot see at all. These cells were really more intelligent than you and me. 4. Once more, these ultra-intelligent cells have constituted rod cells for little light and cones for colorful view at macula. These cells can play chess with Kasparov pair. These ultra-intelligent cells have constituted cornea in front of lens which should refract the light before lens with a specific angle. 6. These cells which have constituted a human eye as transforming are what intelligent cells that the light passes through cornea and the lens lights on macula exactly. These cells had made a perfect positioning regulation according to each other's. I want to talk about another parts such as optic nerves and muscles which moved an eye while it is looking up, down, left or right. Also, these muscles are controlled by optimal controlling. This first probability, in short, the first human eye was occurred perfectly, is not impossible for the reasons. It is required accepting that the cells which had occurred to eye are extraordinarily intelligent. Also accepting that the first human eye was occurred by these cells is contrary to philosophy of evolutionary. Because according to evolutionary, an organ should be occurred primitive and it should be perfectly by yielding environmental conditions in time. Let's talk about the second probability. There are some faults and defects of structure of a human's eye, and these are getting better by mutation as passing down, and I converse to current form. But also this probability is impossible too, because as you see, the structure of a human's eye is so complex and so well designed that a little defect or a fault means that it is bad seeing or it is blind completely. As a result, either see or not, there is a God.